Drink your coffee, read your sports, listen to the Dream Report. Let pour it pour.
West Texas Intermediate crude at Cushing, Oklahoma fell sharply over the past month, but the price of used ag iron is holding its ground.
It is Monday morning, June 29th, 2026, and this is the Week in Appraising on the Dream Report. We are looking at a market where the macro signals are pulling in completely different directions, yet used values remain incredibly resilient.
That drop in WTI is a significant input cost tailwind for production agriculture, but it is being balanced out by some severe weather, drought, and water shortage pressures. Those factors are heavily shaping planting decisions and ag equipment demand across the high plains and the West. Despite those headwinds, and even with new equipment sales remaining sluggish, auction values on used ag machinery stayed strong this week.
The industry podcasts had some excellent color on this dynamic over the last few days. On the Moving Iron podcast, host Casey Seymour and Machinery Pete, Greg Peterson, spent a lot of time on a theme running through the personal property market right now. They focused on the growing premium for well-documented machines and the corresponding condition deductions for thin record machines.
Right, and what made that conversation so interesting is that these deductions are happening even when the hour meters match. You can have two identical tractors with 1,500 hours on the clock, but if one has a complete line item service binder and the other has nothing but a key tag, the market is pricing them in entirely different tiers.
It points to a broader tension in the market right now. Rafi Aharonian, the managing director of Rouse Appraisals, framed this publicly by asking why used prices remain so strong when the broader indicators suggest now is the time to sell. The data from Rouse shows that buyers are willing to pay up, but they are demanding certainty. That certainty comes down to the paper trail.
It makes complete sense. When margins are tight, buyers cannot afford a catastrophic hydraulic or engine failure 3 weeks into harvest. The service binder is the insurance policy, and the market is treating it as a tangible asset.
Speaking of asset values, we saw a genuine cost approach signal this month that runs completely counter to the usual reflex that tariffs always push replacement costs up. The direction of this change is the part that matters because it is actually a form of relief.
This comes from the Section 232 tariff modifications. Effective June 8, 2026, the U.S. reduced the tariff rate on certain imported agricultural equipment, specifically naming combines and harvesters in the action. The rate dropped from 25% down to 15%.
And there's an extra layer to it. Products that meet an 85% U.S. metal content threshold can qualify for a further reduced rate of 10%. This modification is set to run through December 31, 2027.
According to the Federal Register filings and ag press coverage from farm equipment, this change pulls replacement cost new inputs down for imported ag iron. On a cost approach developed under Standard 7 of USPAP, the reflex that tariff pressure is escalating replacement costs across the board does not hold here. For combines and harvesters, the ceiling actually came down a bit this month.
It's a critical distinction. At the same time, we're watching the OEM side for structural signals. CNH has publicly signaled that it's weighing a structural reorganization. While we should not speculate on the outcome of that corporate restructuring, it's an OEM-level comp signal worth monitoring as we head into the second half of the year.
Let's contrast that ag dynamic with what we're seeing in the construction equipment sector. The construction side is dealing with its own set of cost pressures, but the pricing behavior is very different.
According to the ENR second quarter 2026 cost report, used construction machine pricing has been relatively steady. This is largely because manufacturers are continuing to absorb tariff costs to hold their list prices flat. They're protecting their market share, but it's squeezing their margins.
Meanwhile, construction input costs surged in May at the fastest annual rate we've seen since the pandemic. Materials rose roughly 9.6% year over year.
Let's be very precise about that source because it's easy to misattribute. That 9.6% figure comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics Producer Price Index data, which was analyzed by the Associated Builders and Constructors and reported by both ENR and Construction Dive. It is not an internal ENR materials index.
That's an important detail for report citation. In that same ENR report, Equipment Watch analyst Brendan Gallagher noted that used construction equipment is down about 5.5% in resale and about 10.9% at auction year over year. He pointed out that this decline actually follows normal historical seasonal patterns rather than a broader market collapse.
For appraisers, the takeaways here is about the relationship between list price and true replacement costs new. If OEMs are absorbing tariff costs and holding list prices steady, current list prices on recent model years might actually understate the true replacement costs new if those manufacturer cushions disappear. That cushion won't last forever. If inflation on materials continues at this pace, those list prices will eventually have to move upward.
It all ties back to our core theme this week. Whether you're valuing a fleet of excavators under USPAP Standard 7 or analyzing dealer comps for a high-horsepower tractor, the physical machine is only half the equation. The documentation is the value lever.
The machines clearing at the top of the range this week in both ag and construction were the ones where the seller could hand over a complete service and maintenance file. The thin record machines took the deduction every single time, even when the hours and cosmetic wear were identical.
Looking ahead, there's a major forward demand question hanging over the construction sector. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding mechanism is scheduled to sunset in September 2026. That's a massive question mark for construction equipment demand as we move into the fall.
We'll be watching how the market prices that risk over the next 60 days. For your files this week, here's the concrete fact. Under the modified Section 232 rules, imported combines meeting the 85% domestic metal threshold qualify for a reduced 10% tariff rate through December 31, 2027.
That's all for this week. We'll see you next Monday.